have you all here. We're going to start with quick introductions of the speakers after we take a moment to breathe and pause and absorb some of this magic that we've been absorbing today so far. And then also, when I ring this bell, I want to invite you to take a deep breath and then also project kindness to yourself and kindness to all of the other people here in this room and kindness to people around the world. Feel free to close your eyes for a moment here as we do this. Take a brief pause. All right. Take another breath or two and slowly come back, open your eyes. And I'm very excited to have a conversation with these beautiful people here. So we are talking about growing beyond borders. And we are at a time of very interesting transition, shifts in the world, destabilizations in many ways, but also opportunities in many ways. And so we want to talk to these folks here and get some insight, some wisdom from them about what are some of the challenges facing organizations, startups growing in different countries, how they potentially expand here, and then also organizations from here as they work to expand abroad. And maybe through all of this, we can build towards having some greater sense of collective prosperity for people here and people around the world. So let's start with introductions. I was only told that Jeni does not want to go first. So should we start over here? Would you like to start, Sarah? Okay, so the question is also, by the way, do a quick introduction, your name and organization, what you do. And then also I asked them to share one embarrassing moment. So, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Rona. Can you please not record this? Sorry. I am a managing director and head of UK, Europe, and Middle East, North Africa at Silicon Valley Bank. What this long title actually means is that I'm working specifically with international founders from these regions that are either expanding into the US or looking to raise from US investors and need obviously their banking sorted at the very beginning, but also, we try to plug them into the local ecosystems. So yeah, we also have teams that cover India, Latin America. We have pretty global coverage, and so it's been amazing to watch, early stage companies to late stage companies and the VCs that we're covering across the world. So a lot of our clients are here today, and a lot of our VCs as well. So it's really lovely to see everyone.
All right.
My embarrassing story is actually incredibly relevant for me sitting on stage when I was 7, so a very, very long time ago. I'm closer to 40 now, but I peed on stage in front of about 200 or 300 people doing a dance competition. So I've made sure to use the restroom about 3 times right before coming on stage.
We hope that does not happen today. However, if it does, we still love and care for you, no matter which way. Yeah, so we welcome you however you come. Ashish, have you urinated on stage before?
Sorry?
There's a first time for everything.
Yeah, tell us about yourself. Quick intro, quick embarrassing moment.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me over here. It's a great honor to be here and meeting incredible people, both outside the event and at the event over here. My name is Ashish Aggarwal. I'm a general partner at Chamaeleon. We do early stage investments. 3 things to remember about us. All of our team members are operators turned entrepreneurs turned investors. We have built and scaled companies in different parts of the world. Our track record include the top 1% of funds for the last 2 funds. In terms of, we have invested in 4 decacorns, 4 unicorns in our previous funds. Second point, we are a global firm. We have offices in Europe and US, and we look at opportunities globally. And third, we have built our own tech platform in-house called Nuances that helps us understand what are the best companies we should be speaking with at any given point in time, think of it as the operating system for venture capital. And we also share views of the data with our portfolio companies, with our LPs, and with our advisors as such. So think of us as a tech company doing venture capital. One of the embarrassing stories, it was my first time in China, and I did not know about a lot of local cultures. And my embarrassing story was my teammates, like I didn't know how to use chopsticks because it was my first time using chopsticks. And my team decided to, when we went for dinner, bowl full of oily peanuts. And they were like, you have to finish this bowl of oily peanuts using chopsticks. And if you don't do that, you're not getting any food. And there are a lot of funny videos from that night that just, learned a lot that night. How to use chopsticks in one night.
Wow, and I think that there's some relevance here as well about understanding culture as we go abroad. But I also think there's maybe something to learn about your team who is maybe playing mischief and making fun of you somehow. Interesting. All right, very cool. Thank you, Ashish. Welcome. Can we ask you now? Are you ready?
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay, sure. My name is David Munir Nabti. I'm a Bay Area native, Silicon Valley native through and through. But I quit my work here 22 years ago, and I moved abroad, and I've been running programs, entrepreneurship programs in the Middle East and Africa for 18 years, focused on inclusive entrepreneurship and impact entrepreneurship. I love being here, but I also realized 22 to 25 years ago that Silicon Valley had become the global epicenter for inequality in the world. And that did not align with my values, so I am on a lifelong mission to see how we can build towards a more equal, compassionate, regenerative, and flourishing world. So we run impact accelerator programs where we build software. We're working on launching a Regenerate the Bay Donut Accelerator program. I'm actually opening event tomorrow. I'm launching that program if people want to join. And then we have a dream. I have a dream, folks, of a values-oriented accelerator in every public library in the country, every co-working space, every community hub, civic organizations, local businesses, supporting tech entrepreneurs as well around the country, around the world. And I believe we can do that. So, and I love this topic as well of how can we break down barriers, break down borders to open up opportunities to people everywhere. So I think we can make magic together.
Woohoo! I'll
Thank you.
second, third
Jeni.
that, fourth that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right.
What's
Ashish. My embarrassing story. Wow. I have a lot of them.
We can just focus the panel on that.
You did ask the question.
I'm more accustomed to asking questions than answering. Embarrassing story. Well, I have a funny question right now, then actually, which I've been wearing this hat all day. I'm worried I have hat head. Do I have hat head? That might be my embarrassing moment right now. No, I'm okay? All right, in that case, I'm fine. I was just thinking about that earlier. I've gone on stage where I've had horrible hair the whole time. Nobody told me before I went on or anything, and I came off like, why didn't someone tell me? So I actually made a decision, always be the person to tell someone they have something on their collar. Always be that person. Whisper it, tell them kindly. Okay, Jeni.
On that note.
Yeah. Jeni, you do not have anything on your collar. You look fantastic, and you do amazing work as an investor and with Founder Institute. Tell us.
Do I have anything in my teeth?
No, you're great.
Hi, my name is Jeni. I like to give a little bit of background about myself, in part because it'll give you an idea of where my headspace is at and why my answers are kind of unique. So my background, I'm a geneticist by education, also behavioral psych. I was in management consulting, worked for Fortune 100 companies, at least they were at the time, United, Citigroup, Google, etc. And then I got tricked into startups. That's how I started a startup. I was in Chicago at the time. I knew nothing about startups, not the resources that you have here. And one of my ex-coworkers, we got pretty drunk, and we were talking about the woes of healthcare. And a few months later, she's like, Jeni, I really liked our conversation. What do you think about a side hustle? And like a dummy, I was like, sure, why not? It's very hard. So how many people are founders here? Woo! How many people are investors? Huh. I wonder what everyone else does. Operators, I'm assuming. And so anyways, it was really, really hard. So the founders that are out there, I understand your pain. Investors, good luck. AI, good luck. After that, so I moved over to we did pretty well, and I moved over to the dark side. Currently, I lead an accelerator, managing director of Founder Institute. That's also my side hustle. And then I help other accelerators and organizations. Right now, Africa, Korea, South America, and hopefully India and Dubai soon. Then in my day job, we invest in companies pre-seed to Series A, and we're industry agnostic.
Embarrassing moments?
Oh, right. Oh, gosh. So this was also when I was younger. I was in college. I was terrible at basic physics, like shit terrible. And so there was one test that we took, and I was the only one in the course to get it right. And so my professor decided, because I was so shit at it, decided that in front of everyone in this gigantic auditorium, that I should go up there and demonstrate how I got this equation and problem right.
Sounds reasonable.
No, that in of itself, I guess, like Asian, I don't know about you, like the other Asians here, but we don't like compliments, especially in front of hundreds of people. So I was very not happy. And I was sitting up at one of the top rafters, and as I was coming down, I tripped and fell down the stairs. In a gigantic auditorium, I tripped, fell down, got up, and then did my proof. Not awesome.
So we were I was just at a workshop yesterday where they said, like, whenever you make a mistake, kind of like how jugglers, jugglers, when they make a mistake, they don't say, oh shit, what is the juggler, what does the clown do when they make a mistake? What do they do? They just stand up, they take a bow, they do it with pride. So anyway, next time you trip and fall in front of others, which I hope is not today,
God forbid,
then you can take a bow. Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been a great panel. Thank you.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about startup scaling across borders. And this is how long have you been doing this?
a long time.
A lot of time. How long?
Long time.
How many years? How many years?
International startup?
International, yeah.
5.
5.
20 years.
20s? 20 years, yeah. Okay. This is a very bizarre time. Things are moving quick, and I'm curious, what tips can we give to startups? Like, there are a lot of startups here that want to grow beyond their current geography, startups abroad that are here and want to grow here. What kind of tips can we give them to help make that more successful, smooth that process? Sarah, you want to?
Yes, I can jump in. So I'm the context from the Silicon Valley Bank side, so less from the investor lens. So obviously the investors might have a little bit more of a different opinion. But I think in terms of the advice that we can give them, I'd say first understanding your market. Like if you're planning on expanding into the US, what's your TAM, SAM, SAM? What are you going to do with it? Why is now the right time? What stage are you at? Are you currently targeting investors in the US? Or why are you planning on coming to the US in general? Is it because you're looking for revenues? Like what's your core mission beyond why you're doing it now? And then I think the credibility is also the other component of it. So if you can establish things like partnerships, if you can have someone on your board who has maybe international experience, but just really being able to navigate these, but really understand at the core why your business is international, or is really targeting one market right now, which I'll probably talk about a little bit later. I think is quite important. So,
I think in thinking about international expansion, it depends on what stage you are from the startup perspective. If you are at seed or Series A, typically at that point in time, you don't have enough resources to think about expanding to other markets. So you have to be very mindful of resources you have, because as a startup, by design, there is always more to do than you have resources for. And from that perspective, you have to kind of keep that thing in mind. Generally, people want to expand internationally because of 2 reasons. One, you see it's an inbound or from a customer potential customer who wants your solution, and that kind of gets you interested in thinking about, oh, there might be a demand for this product outside of my home country. Or two, there is not enough capital available for what you're building in your home country, and you want to attract international investors to come and take a look and become part of your cap table. So both of those things are very different set of issues that it opens up. So you have to be very deliberate at what stage you want to kind of start thinking about expanding internationally. And based on which bucket you fall into, if you're looking for a new customer, then thinking about what is the initial set of customers you're always going to get from your network, of your own personal network, your advisors' networks, your investors' network in general. So going back to what we heard on the panel, it will be helpful to understand who can help you unlock that first customer. And on the investor side, generally, it basically comes from people are looking for signs of credibility, like, hey, can I trust you as an investor, as an operator? So from that perspective, if you have strong angels on your as part of your cap table, or strong institutions that people trust, that goes a long way in building the trust.
I love that. You folks, what I hear from both of you is this key aspect of team. Like, who can you bring on board to help with some of these critical components? Now, either for Jeni or for you two as well, I'm curious to drill into some specifics. Like, what are some examples of companies' mistakes they've made? And these could be embarrassing or not. You could name them or not, but I'd love to hear some like specific examples that we can learn from of mistakes that were made and then how they addressed them, how they overcome them. So you want to share? Yeah.
Yes, I've got that in spades. I'm not going to address how they achieved them because I think those are later questions that you're going to ask us anyways. But I do apologize in advance. This is probably going to be the longest question of response that I have, and then all the other ones afterwards are going to be really short to compensate. But one of the things that I've seen in founders, especially founders that are doing AI, is that their underestimation of simplistic things that are easily taken for granted in the past. So let me give you an example. In the companies in the past, whenever you localize to a new place, really the biggest questions are, how are you going to localize? How are you translating your company? What is your GTM? And how are you actually going to get adoption and awareness? But what's different with AI is at the very core of your company, it's data, modeling, and infrastructure. And so whereas in companies in the past, you created your product, you tested your product, you did all of these things with code. But here, how carefully are you looking at how you're getting your data? What is the data sets that you're doing? Because internationally, it's very, very different than in the US. And so the three main things is trust, data, and talent. In terms of trust, it's trust in and of itself, and then the governance of it. So let me give you an example. In terms of data, the one huge skepticism that I see is, what data are you using? How did you collect this data? Who is this data for? Culturally, do you understand our culture? When you collect data, you're really only getting snippets. You'll never have the entire country's data. So what are you looking at? And then also translation. I don't know how many people have tried to learn a different language, but it's tough. And there's so much, even when you're good, if you're not a native speaker, there's a lot lost in translation. So how are you doing your data? How are you doing your modeling in comparison? What makes it even harder is, how do you demonstrate this? So right now with AI, it's a huge black box. It's really hard to communicate. It's also even hard to tell what goes in, what is actually coming out, and why. The other thing is governance. How are you governing the data that you're collecting? So for example, think of it like this. Regulation is the legal aspect of your company. Governance is the business aspect of your company. So there's a lot to governance that people take for granted. I have two more, but I swear this will be the longest time I ever talk, ever.
Okay, wrap them up quickly.
Okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
The other thing is data. So you've got the trust factor, because a lot of trust, especially in other companies, is perception. Because they're going to ask, why you? Out of every other company and startup that's doing what similar things you're doing, why would I choose you? Especially with data, especially with AI. So the other thing is data collection. How are you collecting it? I kind of mentioned this before, but it's literally, how are you collecting this data? And is it something that the country that you're at accepts? Okay, they've considered my culture. They've considered the translation. They've considered these things enough that I'm willing to, at the very least, listen to them. Because most likely, if they don't believe this right off the get-go, you're done. You're out. The other thing is regulation. Regulation is a bitch. So be prepared that it's tough. I can go into talent stuff later.
Okay, that's good. No, thank you very much. I hope people were taking notes. There's a good laundry list of very important things to work on, to think about as you work to grow. Specific case studies? Yes.
So in terms of specific case studies, there was a company called Ziva Dynamics where I co-led the seed round. The company it's based in Canada. The company is acquired now by Unity a couple of years ago. So it's coming from a few years ago. The company is Canadian. The founders are Canadian. And what they do is, before the whole Gen AI movement, they were one of the first AI companies focused on improving how you can apply AI models to media and entertainment industry. So they came up with a physics engine that allows you to create how a muscle moves, like how your facial expressions move, or when you are running, how the body should interact. And that was a plugin into Unity, because that's what everybody uses for building movies and games. And when they started initially expanding beyond they were initially selling to movies and they wanted to also start selling into gaming studios, the mistake they made was they realized that they assumed that the sales cycle of selling into movie industry is going to be the same as gaming industry. But both of them, the pain points that you're solving, the ROI that each of these people are going to get, or the companies they care for, and the way the buyer persona is very different in both of those cases. So initially they started with one sales team, but then eventually they realized it, and then they ended up hiring two separate sales teams, one focused on movies and movie industry, other one focused on gaming. And being able to understand where the buyer is, what sort of journey they're going through, and being able to understand the nuances of that's one of the examples of them understanding it, because gaming industry is more global, whereas majority of the Hollywood studios are based in LA, right? So that's why they had to hire different set of people, understanding how the sales is being done. Where, for example, in movie industry, people prefer you to be kind of meet in person, take them out, wine and dine them kind of situation. Whereas in gaming, it's a little bit different. Like, you go to conferences, there are like 3 or 4 major conferences that people go to. Starting with there's of course conference over here in SF in March. There is E3 and a bunch of other ones, right? So that's an example where the founder had to adapt how to think about expanding internationally, but at the same time in different domains that they are going after, and learning on the job in terms of what skills do you need to have in your sales team, and how to change your sales tactics going after that.
It sounds like a lot. We're talking about tech, but a lot of what everyone is talking about is human. You're dealing with humans still. Are we okay with that? People okay with dealing with humans still? Okay, humans?
I actually have an example that is human.
Oh, okay, yes.
So,
you sound like that's an exception.
No, it's very much on this topic.
Okay, yeah.
So the way I'm thinking about things is more from a cultural perspective. I think that lack of understanding of the cultural nuances in the market that you're targeting can really work against you. And I'll give 2 examples of what I've seen recently. Is one, pitching to U.S. investors from a foreign market is a completely different experience. American investors, and I have some sitting here, so I'm going to speak very delicately. But they're looking for the vision, right? And I think that some of the markets I'm covering, like the UK or France, et cetera, they are a lot more conservative in a lot of their projections, and they might sort of not aim as high, whereas the Americans really want to be impressed, and they want to know how you're going to get to 10 million ARR in 2 years. So I think understanding sort of how to pitch differently to the different markets that you're targeting, whether your investors are in Europe or the Middle East or Asia, US. There's a lot of differences when it comes to that. And then another example I'll give in terms of culture is oh my God, I completely lost my frame of thought. It was culture. It was, hiring in the US. So talent. I have one of my Aussie, I used to cover the Australia New Zealand market, and they went through, within like literally a year, they went through 3 head of sales and could not figure out if either the American had overinflated their resume or if they just couldn't deliver, or if maybe there was like a lack of integration with the culture just because they were still operating in Australia and the person was in the US. And so not understanding the way that maybe Americans interview or how to hold your salespeople accountable, whether it's like through KPIs at the early stages and kind of putting that as part of their onboarding package. But just the different nuances in terms of the people relationships, whether it's pitching to investors or hiring talent, I think you can waste a lot of time if you don't have those right.
The human side again. Okay, I have a quick question for the audience before we go on here. One second. I'm curious if people, so raise your hand if you are based here and you're thinking now to grow abroad. Is that what brought you? Okay. If you are based elsewhere outside of the Bay Area and you're working, who's here is based outside of the Bay Area? Okay. And I'll keep your hand up if you're based outside of the Bay Area, but you're looking to grow here. A handful of people. Okay. And if people could shout out, what are some of the challenges that you folks see that you're dealing with, that you see that are facing you and your growth journey?
It's a different way of doing things. Absolutely. It's just the culture, Like you say, I came from Poland, the sound thoughts, but...
Okay, sorry, most people can't hear you. So he'd say culture issues and it's a different way of doing things. Okay, shout out some other things here. What other challenges are you folks seeing, facing, and growing? Yeah, shout it out in the back. The only true risk capital is here. And where are you based? Canada. Okay, very interesting. What other challenges?
Complexities, the tax on the poor.
Complexities?
It's a tax on the poor.
Complexity as a tax on the poor.
If you don't know what the heck you're doing,
okay.
it's very complicated.
U.S. is very complicated. All right, complexity and regulation, etc. All right, beautiful. What else? What other challenges? Shout them out. Anyone? Okay, raise your hand if you have. We can come back to this. You're based here. You're based here. You are based in New York, but your domain is abroad mostly. Helping. What is your geography? Do you invest in people who are not here? Do you invest in people wherever they are?
It's kind of an outlier question for me because most people in the Bay really only invest in the Bay. They look for companies that are willing to come here. If you're international, you're going to have a really hard sell. So the thing that I would recommend is your cap table. This is like silly, but it's not silly. It's your cap table because the U.S. cap table, how they do things, and internationally is very, very different. So I was working with a Swiss company, and the one thing that they asked me was, some Swiss investors, they asked me, are there any Americans on this cap table? And I said, no. Immediately, they took out their checkbook and they signed. So I have a feeling if I had said yes, it would have really stalled that investment for the Swiss company. The other thing is
do you have any idea why?
I won't get into that because I talk too long.
Vaguely? Quickly. Quick summary. Why? Why that distinction?
There were things that Americans ask for that the Swiss don't agree with, and it puts them at a disadvantage. So same with Korea. U.S. investors don't want to invest if they're Korean investors on the cap table because they ask for things that Americans don't want.
Like what?
Again.
Okay.
If you're really interested in this kind of stuff, come see me afterwards.
Okay. Ashish, do you invest cross geography, or what are the geographic bounds of your investments?
We invest globally. We don't have any particular mandates. So we look at companies because of our unique data angle. We are able to see companies in Asia, Europe, LATAM. We have an investment in Korea. We have an investment in Singapore. We have an investment in Europe. As such, so we invest globally. The fundamentals of how we evaluate companies doesn't change. The question is kind of like, okay, can you build a large business in that geography if the market is big enough. If the market is not big enough, for majority of those sectors or verticals, US ends up becoming the biggest market. So then the question becomes is, are you the right person or the right team to actually build a business in the US, sitting where you are? And what is the unfair advantage that you have, or what is the unique insight that you have that nobody else does, right? And it's all about, today, I think people talk a lot about moats, but I think one of the biggest things that people should think about is the speed of execution. Because what's happening right now, the rules that used to be true for getting funding at seed, Series A, Series B, like if you had a 1 million in revenue, you have 5 million in revenue, you had 15 million in revenue at seed, Series A, or Series B, you would be able to get funding very easily. But those rules have changed significantly given how quickly these companies are growing. I'm sure you folks have, we had Amjad from Replit here, a couple of hours ago, and you can see their trajectory, how fast they're growing. So from understanding that, like what you're competing against, because people are going to compare you, and that's one of the biggest things we have seen is like people who are based in other geographies, they assume that you're going to get compared only with people in your own geography. But then when you're trying to raise capital from global investors, they're going to compare you with best companies globally. So from that perspective, you have to kind of like think about that, and that gives you a different lens of how you're going to get evaluated.
I mean, I'm incredibly biased. My job is really supporting international founders. I think that there is a hustle, a grit, a survival instinct that international founders bring, especially when they come to the U.S. and they're new and are just trying to navigate. That I think is incredibly special. And so, obviously, some technologies can be replicated into other markets. Some technologies might not make sense for the U.S. But just in general, I think. That's my job. Like, I love immigrant founders. I love supporting that. It's amazing.
And if I understand correctly, you work to give complementary loans, venture debt, to companies that have some venture investment.
So the way it typically would work with an international company is we start off the relationship with just the regular banking, right? So we'll get regular banking product. So your checking accounts, your foreign exchange, your multi-currency accounts, all of those. And then as companies become big enough in the US and they're looking for things like lending, obviously underwriting debt into a foreign jurisdiction is incredibly difficult and risky, especially if there's a default going after those loans is quite challenging. So at SVB, we do require a significant U.S. presence, like, revenues coming from the U.S., things like that, for us to be able to underwrite. But we still work with a lot of, early stage international companies. And that's the whole beauty of it, right? Is like we're helping plug them into various ecosystems, whether it's in San Francisco, in New York, or even, Atlanta, other smaller markets. But the goal is really to grow with these companies and help them navigate the U.S. I'm an immigrant here myself. I understand the struggles of what it takes, and it's just really hard. I find that the U.S. is quite challenging. So if we can do that and sort of take off some of the administrative burden, it makes hopefully whenever they raise a big round, they'll put it with SVB. So
I know it's called Silicon Valley Bank, but how much of the startups abroad that are coming to the U.S. are specifically coming here, or is there some good distribution around the U.S.?
I mean, I'm biased again. I live in New York. I think New York is awesome. There's a huge international ecosystem. I would say that it depends on regions, right? So I think, and it depends on sector too. I will find lately we've seen a lot of AI companies coming to the Bay Area. European sectors like fashion or e-commerce, things like that. We see them either going to LA or going to New York. It kind of just depends. Climate typically will come over to New York as opposed to the Bay Area. So I would say it's a little bit stage and sector. And also if you're investors in the Bay Area, you probably want to be close to your investors. So there's quite a bit of nuances to that. Sorry, can't
What
answer
about if you specifically don't want to be next to your investors? What do you think about that? No, I'm kidding. Okay,
go to the Midwest.
This is a separate conversation. I'm curious what you folks deem a success when you're looking at that trajectory of growth. Like, what is the ARR or the TAM, or like, are you only looking for the unicorns, or what about the zebras? What about companies that have are going to be great mid-sized companies? Do you put capital into them? You support them? Or what is that level of size of that projection that you're no, that's too small? Or that's amazing, that's going to be a great return, but a smaller return for us?
Venture capital by design is meant for power law, right? So when we are investing, majority of the companies are going to fail, and few of them that's going to be successful. So that's why people are by design looking for, at least in Silicon Valley, I would be surprised if you meet an investor and say, hey, I'm looking for companies that are not going to be huge outcomes. And I think one thing that
They're
has
not going to be what?
Huge outcomes.
What is huge, though? Can you put a number on huge?
Unlimited upside. The good thing about current AI is that with current the progress that's happening, one, no matter where you are, because talent is distributed globally. Two, all the assumptions of how you build and scale a business have pretty much been thrown out the window, given how much AI is challenging every single part of company formation. So the founders that we are meeting today, no matter how young or whichever geography they are from, they want to go against Google, Microsoft. I want to build the Salesforce, right? I mean, we didn't used to hear these pitches 2-3 years ago. So the ambition level of entrepreneurs have gone through the roof, which is incredible. And that's why you're seeing a lot more number of people forming companies globally. If you look at the number of companies that have been started in the US since the whole ChatGPT movement, you will see that number has gone up significantly more as compared to previous years. But even in that, the reason I'm sharing that is of course, I'm also an immigrant. I've also come and built my life around here, and it's very difficult. Yes, I mean but the good thing about Silicon Valley is people want to pay forward, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who have helped me when I first came here. I'm sure each one of us have those stories and that's the beauty of Silicon Valley is you come here, if you are good, you're genuine, you're working hard, you will find people to help you on that front. And that's what make this ecosystem very, very unique on that front. And that's why I think for you folks to be here, you folks can learn faster, move faster, you are closer to your customers, and that's why being here is helpful. Of course, you can have your customer success, your talent team located somewhere else, but at least some member of your team should be where your customers are.
Okay. Yes. Quick question for you. What size of company is a potential successful investment opportunity for you? And then we just have a couple minutes left. So then I want to ask for closing tips to our startups. So each of you think of what top other tips, suggestions we can give these folks to help them in their startup journey.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'll answer both questions at once. I would say in terms of size, I'm not going to answer that question because it really all depends. Well, part of it is the probability that we're going to invest in all of the founders here is very, very small. So I want to generalize this a little bit. The biggest thing is
Sorry, go on.
Stop it. The biggest thing is it really depends. It depends on the stage of the fund or the stage of your company, the stage of the fund. How many funds is this? Are they risk adverse? Do they have huge risk appetite? What have they been looking for? Do they really need you in their portfolio to round it out? How excited are they about you? So at the end of the day, instead of thinking about numbers and traction and all these things, especially as international founders, because that's something that's heavily relied on internationally, here, it's not the same thing. So the biggest thing I think is better than to think about numbers to some degree is risk mitigation. So is the risk you bring as an international company, do the benefits outweigh that risk? And then if it does not, if the communication does not, you need to change your communication. So one of the things is founders, especially in the US, but also internationally, they focus so much on the product. They focus on what they think is product market fit, what they think is traction, but what they're not realizing is it doesn't matter how good your product is. And so I'll just give you enterprise SaaS or enterprise
Very
for
quick.
whatever for an example. The example is they don't care about risk. They think about operational cost. How much does it take to implement? Not just implement technically, but implement within their companies. How do they do training? How do they do all those things? And so think about that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Last tips.
I'll keep it quick. I think right now defensiveness is really important. So are you building something so strong? Do you have the domain expertise to really build a technology that can't be replicated? And then as it pertains specifically to AI, I would say, are you an add-on? Is it a feature? Or are you really the engine, the commercialization behind this AI that you're creating? I would really hone in on that because lately I found that a lot of my founders are just saying that they're now AI companies, but they're not. They're just adding an AI feature. So you really want to narrow that down a little bit. So, sorry.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Ashish.
Two pieces of advice. One, speed of execution is a real moat. Think about small things that you can do every day, and then it will compound significantly. And that's what differentiates a lot of successful companies from not so successful ones. And second, think global, act local. And that in itself, kind of, as you're thinking about expanding, you need to think locally for each market, which is very differentiated in that way.
Great point.
And I'll have one last closing one, which is don't burn out. You are more important than your startup. And the investors might agree or might not agree, but you're more important than the money that went into your startup. You are a beautiful person. You are doing amazing stuff. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of your founders, take care of your family, take care of your team. And let's keep seeing how we can keep working on building beautiful stuff together. Thank you. Thank you, Jeni. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ashish.